All right. Welcome to this episode of Kovic Talk. I'm really excited about this one and I'm going to explain why. I recently got on TikTok and I started talking about something that I find fascinating. It's like the perfect meld of kind of music and technology. I'm talking about NFTs and I'm talking about something that we're going to dive into called non-fungible tokens. And in this murky, crazy world that we're going to go into, I came across this girl called Angela, an absolute legend and intellectual diving into this space, and you know a hell of a lot more about this stuff than me. So I'm looking forward to bringing you in on the podcast. Do you want to give everyone a bit of an introduction, Angela, into yourself and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I go by Zhangsta on all my social media. Personally, my background is actually in engineering, but I started trading around 3 years ago, and now I'm actually kind of a full-time trader, and I have a trading community on the side that I kind of do. But in my free time, I love to dive into, what's new, what's hot, and obviously NFT with the rise of crypto markets is one of that. So I'm definitely super happy to be here. I'm not an expert in the crypto markets, but I have lurked and learned from a lot of experts and digital artists that are in the space. So I'm happy to share what I've learned here.
I love that because, let's be honest, no one's an expert in this field. It's too new. It's like, I don't know how long NFTs have been around, but just to really go from square one, a lot of people who are listening to this is going to be the first time they've ever heard about this thing called an NFT. Do you reckon you could try and just like break down for me in some real Lego terms, what is an NFT? Like, what's the point? Why is everyone going crazy right now about this stuff?
So an NFT, right, simply put, is a non-fungible token, and you can just think of it wraps back to blockchain technology, crypto technology, which is able to kind of, one is decentralized, two, you're able to track like a digital footprint of a token, which can literally be anything. It could be tracked back to a text file, a MP3 file, or like a GIF, and essentially creating scarcity, unique ownership, and a footprint of ownership over time.
And why do you think, like whenever I try and think about NFTs, I always think about them like a barcode, almost like a unique identifier digitally on the blockchain. And someone said to me recently, well, you can't really think of it like a barcode because you can have more than one barcode that is the same number, right? And one thing that I was trying to understand about a non-fungible token is like the word fungible I'd never heard before. And that just means that it can't be exchanged, right? You can't exchange a token like for like because they're always completely unique. Have I got that right?
Yeah, it's always completely unique, and whatever blockchain address, it is essentially like a line of code that is unique, and it's the transaction itself that's unique. So each transaction, or in the case of NFTs, they are like smart contracts. So if when you do push out a limited edition version of an NFT or a multiple edition, one of 5 print minted NFTs, each edition is associated with a smart contract that is then associated with a unique line of blockchain tech, which I don't really fully understand, but that does give it like a unique transaction footprint, which is in this decentralized crypto blockchain transaction pool.
So that's what is giving a digital file complete unique kind of like attribution, right? Because
Yes.
a question that I'm always asked all the time is, why would someone pay like a ton of money for like a digital thing that you can just screen grab? And Grimes just did 6.2 million in 20 minutes, and you've got NBA Top Shot, and it's an interesting question to tackle, and I'm interested to know how you're going to tackle it. It's like, why are people spending so much money right now on digital things, MP3s, GIFs? Why are they doing this?
So I think within the art industry, it not only creates like a unique opportunity for digital artists, which innately are things that can be copied so easily, but because of this unique digital verification that blockchain technology offers, it gives digital artists an opportunity to create something that's scarce and that fans and supporters can directly purchase and invest in because they support the artist and not necessarily because the artist is creating something for a client, let's say. So I definitely think the value, like in any art industry, is subjective, obviously, and it only has value if people support and give it value. But one thing that blockchain technology does with the smart contracts that I mentioned earlier that's different from traditional classical art collecting is that digital footprint is there forever. Because versus, I heard this from she's a journalist that was trying to learn more about the difference between traditional art collecting and NFT collecting. And she said one of the big difference is the blockchain ability to create these smart contracts and track things. Because in the real world where we're collecting, let's say, I don't know, like a Monet painting, sometimes those contracts are not even honored. But with this decentralized system, you literally cannot go wrong with it because it's all in the system of blockchain tech.
That's something that I find really, really exciting about it. And I did my homework as quick as I could. And one of the things that I tried to get my head wrapped around, and you mentioned it a couple of times, is this idea of the blockchain. And I think part of the reason why we're on the same page and we see eye to eye is you've got an engineering background. My background is in physics, and like the science way of looking at this in terms of art is like the blockchain is a way of putting fact and answers where it wasn't there before. And for people listening, when you're trying to imagine what the blockchain is, it's the best way of thinking about it, I think at least, is a publicly verifiable way of proving that something is real, right? And let me put another example. When someone said, well, couldn't you just screen grab it and like send some art to like your friend? And I said, well, it's kind of like taking a picture of the Mona Lisa, isn't it? It's kind of like taking a picture and sending it to your friend. But there's a publicly verifiable kind of society where we go, well, the real one is at the Louvre, and we know that because as a public, we all know and we agree, and that's the kind of construct. And even that is human at its center, and even that can be gamed, and you could lie, right? But on the blockchain, it's almost like every single computer that's connected to the blockchain can read this same set of transactions. Have I got that right? So like everything that's bought and sold, every computer around the world can check that those transactions are legit. So the people who go ahead and like the people who bought Grimes' first NFT drop, when they bought that, they not only are going to have that attribution to their e-wallet forever, but am I right that every sale of that bit of art also can benefit Grimes, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, so there's the two things that you kind of touched on. Every artist, when they sell, like the original creator of the NFT gets a royalty paid back, and creators can set it. Usually it's 10%. Some go as high as 30% or 40%. But yeah, definitely every work that's resold, like for Beeple's work, the election piece that got resold for 6.6 million, he earned 10% royalty off of that re-auction by Christie's.
So that's the second time it sold. So the first time it sells, he gets...
First time I think it was sold for 66K, and that was just directly to him because he was the original seller. But then it got auctioned off by Christie's, which is the biggest auction, and then it was auctioned for 6.6 mil, and he would receive 660K from that resale.
Wow.
So very impressive. And his most recent work got auctioned for 69 million. So crazy.
Well, there you go. I mean, this is super fresh. I don't know. I know for sure there's going to be people listening to this right now being like, are these people crazy? Like, did they really just say that digital artwork has sold for this much? Yes is the answer. Like, yes, it has sold. Do you like when you're observing this stuff? And I really want to touch on your trading because you're very clued into crypto and how markets are moving. How do you feel in your gut about where we're sitting in a market? Is this all like hype and over-inflated nonsense, or do you see the long-term return and benefit in people who are acquiring these assets?
So, with COVID 2020 being very crazy, and then there's obviously a lot of stimulus checks and the government printing money, and all that money, kind of people get it, and there's a lot of inflation right now in the market, so people are thinking, what can I best do with the cash I have and have it to appreciate in value? And obviously there's the traditional stock market, there's real estate, your traditional kind of safer bets that people are diversifying their assets in. But then there are also these emerging crypto markets and NFT markets that are kind of riding on the wave of crypto markets that are also, I think it's just another way that people diversify their assets into. Like, I personally trade in the stock markets daily, but it's not like I'm putting, I'm like putting maybe like less than 5% of my total, assets into crypto. Kind of like, obviously there are big crypto or NFT supporters that are maybe like, I have friends who are 100% in the crypto markets and they kind of lost faith in the stock markets, but to each their own. I think it's just a way of diversifying asset income. But I think the bigger, longer lasting effect of NFTs is specifically for people like musicians or digital artists, is the ability that digital artists can, one, like finally create original work to connect with their supporters and kind of earn monetary income through that route. And I think that's like really special, right? Especially I have like digital artist friends that, create digital artist work, but it's really hard to, one, get that initial following. And usually how they would secure income is eventually maybe landing a collab, a sponsorship, or selling a digital print. But this NFT marketplaces that are rising, which are many, we can go over that later, has given artists a opportunity to, one, also reach a larger audience through NFT marketplaces, and two, just have the freedom to create whatever they want. And if they have supporters that are willing to invest in them, like, they can. So I think that's really awesome. I personally actually bought an NFT last week.
Yeah, what did you get?
We could talk about that. Again, some listeners, my mom, for instance, was like, why would you? I spent $5,000 on this digital art by a digital artist based in Germany. It is one of 3 limited editions, one of one. They are moving digital art. It's kind of like a Japanese garden, so it's a moving. It's not digital art
the Wonnerstat stuff.
It's what?
What's the name of the artist? Do you know? Like, do you remember the?
Hannes Hummel. I don't know if that's how you pronounce him.
Oh, nice.
But he's a really small artist. Like, when I searched up his Twitter and his like social accounts, he's not like some big artist who already has like a big social media following. His work was, first curated by Maker's Place, which is an NFT crypto art marketplace. Mm-hmm. I found his work through a deep dive because I personally love digital art and I really support this space. So I was deep diving to kind of just see what artists are out there, and I found his work and I just fell in love with it. I can see myself hanging it in my future meditation room, and just like it'll be in a digital frame and I'll just play it on repeat. And I personally, like, I didn't see it, like, I saw it as a collectible, right? Obviously other people on the marketplace are doing this as a trade. They're trying to do a quick flip.
I mean, that was going to be my next question, is like, are you doing this similar to how you treat a market? Are you doing it to flip it? But you're not. This is a real passion. You're buying it because you want to keep it.
Yeah, so I personally am buying it because I want to keep it and I support the artist. And it's kind of like the idea that maybe I discovered this artist at an early stage, before he becomes big. And who knows, maybe his work or the work that I purchase will appreciate in value. But I honestly am not really looking to sell, even though I already got a bid. Like, literally the day after I purchased it, I got a bid for $8.5K on it.
Wow.
So there's definitely a flippable
element
value to it. Yeah, like, definitely I've seen people who purchase works for $5K and resell it for $20K in like a week. So that's definitely also there for people who are traders or art curators who want to try and get into that space. But obviously the it's not that easy because you do need to have the capital, because a lot of these artworks just go and for auctions and it'll go directly up to like at least $10K a piece. So very lucrative market.
It's nuts. I mean, something that I don't talk about very often is my other part of my brain is used to run an agency, and we've actually been doing NFT drops with that company on the side, and I've just been so impressed to see the rate that people are kind of learning and creating new ways of doing things. And I see these auctions running and we're sitting there around the computer just watching them in the last hours, just like going up and up and up. And it's really exciting, and kudos to you and like respect to you for like doing the deep dive and finding the artist. Because I don't know this artist in Germany, right? But I can only imagine the feeling of an artist who maybe is used to, like barely getting by, or maybe it's a hobby, or maybe it's a dream of theirs to do digital artworks and make animations of Japanese gardens or whatever passion, they have. And then to realize that now they're being really like well remunerated for this art that they do, like that just really, I think that's part of why I'm so excited about it. And I've also had friends myself in my circles who have been photographers for a long time, or they've been making some, really kind of niche based art. and now they're killing it. And it's like, wow, I've got a career now. And this isn't something where they have to work, in some job that they hate just to support their passion. It's like now they're killing it. And I hope that this game's going to continue. So I love that you've done that. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it also brings me on to thinking about people don't understand or people don't necessarily understand the future of displaying these things, right? Because if we start looking to our like 5 to 10 year timeline in the future, when we've got like augmented reality spaces and people are putting NFTs up in their like digital houses, or whether they've got like TFT screens in a meditation room and they're displaying this stuff, is like there's real world application to the collection and ownership, right? I mean, seems like that's your plan at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty nerdy when it comes to like VR and AR. Like, I love that space. I love imagining in the future when we shop, or even like, when we're just at home and I want to attend a music festival, I mean, you already can do that. You can already throw on like a VR goggle and just like be in like a music festival. But yeah, just like the concept of having a home, walking, and then having a digital art frame displayed in my living room, and it kind of changes and goes through my collection, and I could just walk home and it could be anything playing, and like, just, I don't know, it's like a really cool concept to me that I definitely look forward to.
Here's something that I was thinking, right, as you were talking then. Let's say that you bought a bunch of NFTs now that did go up in value. So like this art piece that you've got, you spent 5K, you have it in your wallet. Let's say in 10 years time, this becomes like some next level successful artist and you had like one of the first original works. Just like hypothetically as an idea, does that mean that down the line you could charge people to see the art in a digital space? Like, does that make sense?
Interesting.
Do you own the rights to it? Like,
I don't believe I own the rights to it. And depending on, but I do think, similar to how when people collect regular art and regular sculptures, they kind of put on their own art exhibitions, that could be a possibility. But I'm pretty sure, like, if we're talking legalities, the original owner would still probably have to maybe get something out of that.
because I'm just going a little step further here, and it's like, if I think about the Louvre in Paris and people spending their tourist dollars and euros to go and queue up and look at the Mona Lisa, it's like, well, it's not that far-fetched to imagine a future where there's digital art galleries where people are paying like a ticket fee to go in and see this stuff. And it's just such a weird but crazy, like, kind of exciting world potentially.
Yeah, because let me think. So I was in a clubhouse where the Nyan Cat creator Chris was in, and when he created the Nyan Cat, that was just a meme that kind of went viral. And he told me, well, he didn't tell me, he told the room that it actually took him 10 years just to secure and make sure all the rights, even for that meme, before NFTs was legitimate and back to himself. And it took him kind of 10 years to do that. But with his recent Nyan Cat NFT that was sold for 600,000, the rights, he told me he still owned. I DM'd him. I was like, do you still own the rights? He's like, yeah, I still own full rights to that original work. But the collector owns the card, he says.
Okay, so you've hit the nail on the head on a massive question that I've been asked so many times, and I'm so glad that we're here, because I need to ask you something. It's similar to the Nyan Cat example. In music, you might be aware of this, but for people listening, in music you have essentially two forms of copyright. You've got the intellectual copyright, like, I write a song. If I pick up a guitar right now and I write a song, okay, so that's the intellectual copyright, but it's just a song that I've written. Then you have something called the master copyright, which is like a polyphonic copyright, quote unquote. And that is for the song's recording. So if I go to a record label, for example, and they pay for me to record it, then there's two distinct rights. And one of the questions when I was doing my TikTok, and I got in a little trouble for this, and I'll explain why in a minute, but I did this TikTok. I was like, right, I'm going to go and sell a music NFT. Now, the big question is, what happens to a musician's rights? Does that mean that someone can go and sell my song, for example, if they buy the NFT of my song?
So I think because the NFT has a uniqueness, one, it's like you get the royalty back. So if they sell it, everything's still within the transaction history, and whatever that is sold to the next owner, you're still making royalties off of that original. I don't think they have any sort of rights to resell it, because when they are reselling it, they're still reselling on that same blockchain marketplace, and everything is still timestamped and footprinted.
So the idea, if I've got this right, is it's the token. So let's say, if I get this glass of water now, I could say I'm going to mint an NFT token for this glass of water, and then I can essentially specify what it means. So if someone just buys the NFT and people just find this glass of water fascinating because it's been on this podcast and it becomes super successful in the months coming up, then the stock, of that glass of water would rise, and then people would trade the token that represents the water. It's not that they own the glass of water.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. Okay. So that's a huge question that I know a lot of people are going to be like, right. So, okay. So if I have a song, I'm making a token that might represent something, whatever I define. It doesn't mean that someone can come along and buy that and then go and release that song on Spotify and start making money off it.
Right. No. And I think a really recent example, I don't know if you know Blau, the DJ
I do.
in the space.
I was actually in Clubhouse with him recently, and it's why I bring that up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because he was probably one of the first people in the musician space that sold his minted edition Ultraviolet album. And the way he defined it is that whoever buys the NFT also gets a customized song, but it's like a minted vinyl, edition. It's not like they have rights to the whole entire album, because it was a tribute. It was essentially like a tribute to the album that was already released 3 years ago. So.
Gotcha. And that I love what he's done with that, and I think as we go a step further, and especially for the musicians who are listening, we had a very, very brief chat before we dived into doing this podcast, and one of the things that I found fascinating was this ability for NFTs to do more than just attribute works to someone. So you can code NFTs to do stuff, and this is where I think Blau even touched on it himself, where you might have an NFT that says that someone can be the benefactor of 10% of the song royalties, or you could have your fans, buy a collection of NFTs that then does something in 5 years' time, that you can do this crazy shit. What's the stuff that you're seeing on the ground? What are you seeing artists do with this kind of technology?
So from what I've heard in the art space, and this is I think it's not only about scarcity, but it also makes it fun almost, they almost gamify it, as people say it. For instance, I've heard of one artist that purposely kind of coded the time aspect into his art piece, so every time you actually open the file associated with the NFT that you buy, it kind of decays, but if you close the file, it doesn't decay. So that just kind of adds a time factor with the NFT. And then like you said, with the whole having a collection unlocks the ability of maybe purchasing the next, drop. I think that's also a way of gamifying the edition. So not only are you collecting one edition, you are now trying to collect, ABC edition in order to unlock XYZ in the future. So I think that's maybe just another way for artists to kind of gamify their work pieces. And it's art, right? So art is very subjective. And putting time as a component, and because there's the blockchain technology, we're able to kind of track it in real time, over time as well. So really cool stuff.
I've got an idea, and then you can tell me if something like this would be possible.
Okay.
Can you make an NFT that's claimable in a space? So if I made a barcode and I put it up on my front door, could someone rock up to my house and scan it, and then they could get an NFT for it? Is that possible?
Well, I mean, every single NFT transaction has to be done through a Ethereum wallet. And I don't know. I mean, if there's a crypto person listening and I'm wrong, but I feel like you can, because your wallet has a QR code linked to it and there's a unique address. So if someone comes along and says scans your wallet and pays you directly, I think, but you would need to have the correct algorithm set up so that when they do scan, that your piece actually does get transferred into whatever, system that their collection is in. Because right now, every single NFT, at least in the art space, it's on a platform, right? There are different Nifty, Gateway, Maker's Place. Super Rare are the three crypto art marketplaces that come to mind, and every art that's traded on each marketplace is is like logged in that system, and Blau's music work is logged on his own like website. NFT Top Shop is logged on, you know, sorry, not NFT Top Shop, NBA Top Shop is logged on their system.
Okay,
So if you were to create something, like you could definitely create it, but you definitely need a team to make sure that everything is tracked and logged.
Okay, so before I'm gonna unpack my idea a little bit more because there's a reason why I asked that. But just really quickly, just so I've got my head around it. And again, I need to slow down for people listening as well, because I remember when I was learning about this, it's like the e-wallet thing confused me. So you have an e-wallet, and for example, this can be something that plugs into your web browser, or you can have it as an app on your phone. And the idea is this wallet that you have on your phone, it's secure and it's just to you, and this wallet interfaces with the Ethereum blockchain, and the wallet can observe what's happening on the blockchain. So if you buy something, you can transfer an NFT into your digital wallet. I've got that right, yeah?
No.
Right,
So
okay.
when you buy, yeah. So for the wallets, right, there's like, think of it as like your portfolio. They're called wallets because they're cryptocurrencies.
Right.
So they're called like wallets. But it's just like if you're on Fidelity or if you're on Robinhood and you have a portfolio of stocks, that crypto wallet is just a platform in which you can trade cryptocurrency and like altcoins on, for instance, like Ethereum or Bitcoin. And like some of the well-known wallets are, you know, Coinbase, Gemini, or MetaMask is the one that a lot of crypto art platform uses. But when you buy the NFT, it's on the crypto art form. Like the NFT that I bought, it's not like a token in my wallet that shows up as like this person's art. It's only shown up on Maker's Place, which is where I purchased it. But I purchased it using Ethereum from my wallet.
Okay, but so for example, if you want to go and view your art piece, you have to do it through that website that you bought it on.
Right, yes.
Okay, so you couldn't give that to me, for example, because I would need to bid, and you would have to accept the bid, and then I would own it, but I would only own it where it'd be kept as a registry entry on that website.
Exactly. So I think that's the one thing that's really interesting, because in another Clubhouse, people were saying there are so many marketplaces, and just to name a few, Rarible, OpenSea are the ones that are kind of free for all. They're not curated or invite only. Nifty, Gateway, Super Rare, Maker's Place, Foundation, even Zora, and then there's many, right? There's a bunch of emerging marketplaces that are only for crypto art.
But what happens if those websites go down? What happens if someone pulls the plug on Nifty Gateway and the website's gone?
Yeah, so that's definitely where, you know, the technology needs to be there. I think that's the same with crypto technology when you think about it, because that's a question I also scratched my head. Like, there's still a team supporting Ethereum and developing Ethereum. And for instance, there's this notion of gas fee. When an artist tries to mint their work, they need to pay a gas fee for the transaction to go through. And a gas fee, from my understanding, is a fee paid to those people who are mining the coins. And then the more people who are trying to do transactions through blockchain, the more congested the network will be, hence a higher gas fee. So right now, the average for an artist to mint their artwork is actually anywhere between $100 to $200 because of the congested network. And I think before this hype, you know, this 2021 NFT hype, it only cost maybe like $2 to $5.
Well, I remember when I did mine, it was $8, and I remember thinking to myself, "What is this gas fee?" And similar to exactly what you said, I understood it as being the fact that some processor somewhere had to chunk through the numbers to make sure that these transactions are being recorded in the blockchain in this big open kind of ledger. But yeah, the fact that now it's gone up to this price, it also kind of prices people out of the market, especially if they're kind of on the ground level. So it's such a strange world, but this kind of brings me to this concept that I was having, whereby what you're saying is that the websites store their own independent collections that interface with the blockchain. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I buy something on Nifty Gateway, I can't take that and give that to you so you can put it on sale on Rarible or OpenSea or Mintable. It has to stay in Nifty Gateway. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, because right now, for instance, some artists that I follow, they'll be partners with a bunch of these big ones, but then the art they drop on each place is like exclusive. So it's almost like when you think of the fashion world, there's like Farfetch,
Yeah.
Sense.com that comes to mind, like curated designer brands. But then there's like design, like, you know, this platform exclusive partnership. So that's like kind of how I think of it. But I think someone brought up a good question in a clubhouse I recently attended. They were saying that these platforms, these like marketplaces, should definitely try and work together to make it so that it is transferable between
Cross-platform,
you know,
yeah.
because right now Rarible and OpenSea are cross-platform. So anything posted on Rarible is now, you can also buy it and bid it on OpenSea. But with these invite-only platforms like Nifty Gateway and Super Rare, I don't think there's like a cross-platform aspect to it yet.
Okay, so here's my idea, right? As you know, I'm a musician. Let's say I put a tour on and I'm doing like 30 dates around Europe next year. I think it would be cool, and this wouldn't be a money thing, this would be a collectible thing. I think it would be cool if people who showed up to a gig could like scan a code that would be stickered all over the venue. And the idea is the only way you could like mint that collectible would be to like scan it on your phone.
Right?
And then there'd be like a tradable idea that like if you could collect all of the tokens from the whole tour, then you would get like a free full like live recording of the set. Like that's, and I'm just wondering, like, is that even possible? Because I don't know. I don't know if that's even possible to do something like that, but that would be a cool idea to me.
That sounds like a really cool idea, but like I said, I think you do need your own dev team to make that possible. Just like how Blau has his NFT.blau.com.
Right, you'd have to make your own website that interfaces with the blockchain to store it all and make it all right. Shit.
Something like that, yeah. But that definitely sounds like a really fun idea.
Sounds expensive though. We'll see.
Does sound
And by a dev team, you're talking about people who can come in and actually code the infrastructure for a website to talk to the Ethereum blockchain, register these sales, register these bids, do the transactions. Jeez, okay, yeah, fair play. Maybe it's not so attainable. Like, so where do you feel in your gut, being a trader? You said before that you kind of only put 5% of your assets into crypto. Like, where do you think we're going in the next 3 to 6 month period with Ethereum? Do you think this NFT thing's just going to continue to fly, or do you see it peaking out?
Well, first of all, I don't even know if I'm in any position to say anything, but from my personal viewpoint, there's definitely, you know, the idea that we might be in a bubble, and things are just hyped out. And, you know, there's always going to be high net worth individuals kind of supporting or funneling money in to purchase artworks at ridiculous prices, and you don't even know who they are, especially through blockchain tech where everything's anonymous. You really don't know which whale is purchasing this art for $69 million or something like that.
Could you not track the username? Like, is it just completely random then? I wouldn't be able to see if you...
There's definitely a username, but it's like a username, so it's going to be behind...
an avatar.
There's going to be a level of anonymity to it. But in terms of where blockchain is going, where NFTs is going, I think similar to any collectible marketplaces, right now there's kind of the three big ones that stand out to me. NBA Top Shop, which is not even on Ethereum. It's by this thing called Flowchain. They were originally the ones that made CryptoKitties back in 2017 when they blew up. And then NBA Top Shop is big and hyped because it's backed by the NBA League. The second one is, you know, any sort of like gaming items, like for instance, CryptoKitties. And then the third one is like crypto art. So for me, I think anything that has a certain sentimental value attachment to it, like Pokemon cards, over time the value will still be there and appreciate, because there will always be a fan base, and it's kind of dependent on like if there are people that see value and give value. But with art, or just, I don't know, there's this one thing called Unisocks, and it's just a pair of socks, and it's collectible, and they put like a 100K price tag on it. Those things are the things that will, you know, get hyped up with the bubble and die once the bubble pops.
You've got to explain that. What do you mean, the pair of socks for 100K?
So I also heard this in a different clubhouse room, but, you know, with the NFT hype, there's all these different things like I just listed. If you go to unisocks.com,
all right, sweet,
and you type it right now, it's literally a pair of socks that is going for like 85K.
But like there must be some reason. Was this like one of the first ever physical things exchanged by NFT? Like there must be. It can't be. I'm looking at it now for people like who are listening. I'm looking at this right now. I've got $900,000 on literally a pair of white socks which has got a pink design on it. Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, I haven't dived in too much, but this is something that I think is ridiculous and maybe doesn't have much real value to it, and it's just hyped up and people give it value, similar to, you know, the banana that was taped to a wall. But you know, I think in any of these marketplaces there are things that like add value. For instance, like this crypto art, the reason that I even like put money in, you know, 5K is not a small amount for me as like a recent college grad, but for me, I really think it's supporting so many like artists out there, people who have creative passion, and it's really giving, these marketplaces are giving them a chance. And sure, you can argue like, oh, it's so expensive to mint a piece of work, and just because you mint it and you spent the money doesn't mean like your work is going to be sold for 20K or, you know, 1 million. But that's always going to be true. Like, even if I'm just an artist starting out and I'm trying to like grow my Instagram account, it doesn't mean you're going to get 100K followers and get a sponsorship deal. But this is just like having this marketplace be a thing and having people actually support it and people bid on work to, you know, prices like 20K, 200K it's just, I don't know, it's almost, for me, it's like hope for the artist community, because it's another way, one of like supporters that can truly support you. And it's like that feeling, like I was really, really stoked when I got that piece, because I was bidding. I was also bidding with someone else. And when I saw that like I got it and it's like in my little collection, when you go to like Maker's Place / Zhangsta, it's like there, like that's a really intimate feeling you have with the artist. And I reached out to him on Twitter, and he was also really happy and humbled, like, oh, I'm so glad you know, enjoy my work, and, you know, more to come. I'm more motivated to create more of these series, and just things like that. I think it's really special for the community.
Well, that's another thing that you've probably changed that guy's life or girl's life. It's like the fact that they can go and make more art and go and follow their dream now is just such a cool thing. And I love that. I haven't bought one yet, but I've been told from various people that are collecting that there's a real special feeling attached, just like exactly like you've just said. And I think I'm probably gonna take a dive and get my first one. So I'll have a little shop around and see what just see what takes my fancy.
That was like from me 2 days of shopping or like searching. But yeah, definitely. There are things that, like, it's art, right? Art, similar to music, it's something that speaks to you, or you feel connected, or it reminds you of something. For me, it's kind of like, I have really vivid dreams. So I love, like, the idea of, like, surreal digital art, like something that is not, you can't capture in real life.
Right.
So, like, when I look in these digital art spaces and I see something that almost gives me the feeling of deja vu, it just really speaks to me personally.
When you say you have like really vivid dreams, why, like, you say that in the terms that they're more peculiar than you normally expect? What do you mean when you say it's like really vivid? You like lucid dream and
like I get, I don't know if this is off topic, but I have dreams that are very sci-fi, fantasy, and like just surreal, and like really beautiful scenery. And obviously that's like taken like my subconscious maybe like from movies or scenes I've seen. And like I'm big in the EDM scene, so I love all sorts of crazy visuals, and it's also like kind of like a spirituality attached to it as well. So my dreams, and I remember them, that's the thing, I remember all my dreams. So when I see an art that reminds me of my dream, it's literally, it's like a really cool feeling.
That's mad. That's crazy. Little, you know. But yeah, it's really cool. Oh, fair play. I mean, I don't know if you know, if you're big in the EDM scene, do you know a guy called Gareth Emery by any chance?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so he's actually dropping one right now, and when I jump off this podcast, I'm going to go and help him out. And he's got some crazy ideas that are coming out in the next couple of months, and he's really into the NFT game. It's amazing to see what he's doing, and I found him really inspiring in the way that he's been talking about it. He's been involved in blockchain tech for a long time, so you'll have to check out some of his stuff. And I don't know whether you've got any advice for people when they're like getting into this game. Is there anything to watch out for? I don't know if there's anything you came across when you got into it, like whether it's wallets to use or the process. Like what's it like?
So one thing that I really, really heard, because I, for one, just to familiarize myself with the process of how to mint, I just minted a random piece of photography work that I did on Rarible. And like I said, you have to have a wallet that you connect. Most of the marketplaces are connected to MetaMask. So you just set it up. It's pretty straightforward, but you need Ethereum also to be deposited into this hardware wallet, which I use, called Coinbase. And then it's pretty simple. You just, convert USD to Ethereum, and then you can send the coin to the wallet address, which is a QR code or like an actual string of letters and numbers. What's another thing? Another big thing. If you are a emerging artist in the space, the Twitter community apparently is the best place to be. Like the hashtag NFT community on Twitter is where all the artists and collectors kind of share each other's work, and collectors will be like, oh, I like your work, I'm gonna buy it. And then, it's just, I think that's a community, because when I did talk to the few NFT artists I knew, they all said that they started on Twitter. And for instance, like the artist that I collected from only has 400 followers on Twitter, but through the NFT marketplace he gained. And it's also interesting because within the NFT artist community, there's also the collector community. Like there are some big name collectors that over time, they're always the ones bidding like 200K on a piece, and they have their collection is almost like a monopoly sometimes. I remember there was this piece that I really wanted, and I couldn't even I was like, oh, this guy has his eye on it, then I'm not even gonna be able to afford it. But I still think it's really awesome with people who have the high net worth and are supporting the NFT marketplace, making that splash in that way, and the people who are people like Blau or people that are more big name NFT artists trying to really talk about NFTs in general and educating other artists, I think is also helpful and propels this whole entire space into whatever it's going to be developed into.
How does it work though if someone bids up an NFT with their mates? Like hypothetically speaking, like you said, there's a collectors club, and I imagine anything that involves a financial infrastructure, there's going to be a methodology behind augmenting the price. So let's say, for example, you put up an NFT and then I start bidding on it, and me and a bunch of people start bidding on it purely to try and hyperinflate the value of something for a purpose, whether that's money laundering or whether that's just to write off a taxable income on my portfolio. Surely that stuff must be happening.
So I think I know different platforms do it differently. On Nifty Gateway, when they drop something, the auction window is only 5 minutes. So that piece is dropped and within 5 minutes sold to the highest bidder. And on other platforms, you can either set a price, sell it, or set it as an auction. I mean, definitely there is the thought that maybe people can be bidding, having artificially bidding the price up. But I think because one, the community is pretty new, and two...
But I mean, we have that in normal auctions, right? In normal auctions, you can overvalue
how
art.
is it enforced, right?
Well, yeah, put it this way. And again, I don't hold me to this, and I'm sure someone will out there will be able to answer this question for me. But I'm pretty sure in normal auctions, in high-level normal auctions, you can kind of hyperinflate items on purpose in order to take personal tax benefits from it, right? So especially if you're a high net worth individual. I mean, I'm not pointing any fingers, but Grimes' name, you got to look at that and be like, wow, 6.2 million in whatever 20 minutes or something. It's just that's some serious money for digital artwork, and that's not to take away from how talented she is, but I don't know, it's pretty interesting to see how people might be exploiting this new market for their own gain.
Oh, definitely, because I remember in a clubhouse, name drop him, Tommy, who was an ex-Coinbase dev, said that NFTs are actually not considered securities. They are just considered as art. So I think there is kind of I don't want to call it a loophole, but there's definitely regulations that are not fully there in terms of NFTs because they aren't a security. So security laws don't comply in these sort of trades and investments. So maybe that's another reason why there's a lot of hype in this space.
Yeah, it's mad how quick it's developing. Even today I saw this article about how NFTs are evil because of the power they consume, the damage to the environment. Have you seen this stuff coming out yet? Have you?
Oh yeah, I mean my crypto in general, there's always going to be the people who are because they are. I mean, crypto mining for crypto is literally so bad for the environment. And my dad actually, for that reason, doesn't support crypto and doesn't see a future for crypto. He says that because it's so damaging to the environment, like sooner or later the government has to come out with some sort of way to balance, because it's like decentralized system versus like non-decentralized and like damaging to the environment. So there's definitely like opportunity cost here that needs to be further discussed.
And that's because of the computers that are basically running the processes that are mining the coin, and it's just the heat that generates. That it's literally that.
Exactly. Yeah, because the whole idea of blockchain is that there are these, there are these nodes, and each node that is solved for a transaction is a harder math equation, and each step up takes more power to solve this algorithm. So that's why there's these big mining farms that's literally just dedicated to, trying to mine more Bitcoin. I think the two companies in that space leading right now are Riot and Mara. So for people who are traders, whenever Bitcoin goes up, those two stocks go up too. Sympathy stock plays.
And so when it comes to your stock world and what you're doing in this stuff, that's obviously where you're mainly clued in. So how do people learn more about you and what you're doing in the stock market? And I know that there's plenty of people that are going to want to check out what you're investing into because you're a very, very clued in person. Like, how can people follow you and find your profiles?
I go by Zhangsta across all my platforms, so just Zhangsta. And then my personal side hustle business is called Low Key Stonks.
Nice.
So you can just find that at lowkeystonks.com.
Fair play. Well, look, listen, Angela, I'm sure we're going to do this a little bit more down the line because I know that both of us are now like trying to learn this stuff at a crazy rate. And I love everything you're doing. I love the way you explain things. Thank you for helping me and everyone listening right now understand a little bit more about NFTs and where it's going. And I just think you've aced this. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Sounds good. All right. I'll catch you next time. All right.
All right. See ya.
Perfect.